All right, let's go ahead and get started. So I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar, Shape Up Your Data Center with Nutanix. First, I'd like to go through a few housekeeping items. So during the webinar, everyone's phones will be muted. If you have questions, please enter them into the chat box, and we will answer them during the question and answer portion of the webinar. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn it over to our speakers, Nikita and Payam from Nutanix. Nikita, take it away.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jen. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're very excited to be here. So the goal of today is, one, to give you a quick overview of the Nutanix technology, and then we're actually going to get into a detailed demo to see a Nutanix in action. The presenters today is myself. My name is Nikita Maheshwari. I'm a product marketing manager at Nutanix. I've been here over 2 years, and my focus has really been on our software offerings, as well as one of our latest product releases called Community Edition, which I'll speak to. And we also have Payam Farazi. Payam, you want to just give a quick intro to yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Nikita. This is Payam Farazi. I'm a lead channel SC out of Chicago. I've been with Nutanix close to 1.5 years, and definitely looking forward to showing you all what the platform is capable of in the demo today.
Great. Thanks, Payam. All right, so as I mentioned, we'll start with the architecture and company overview and then get into the demo. So for any of you that are new to the call and haven't heard of Nutanix before, just a background on our company, right? So we were founded in 2009. We're based out of San Jose, and we're just over 1,000 employees now. In terms of our company and our offerings, our core product right now is in data center infrastructure, right? So our mission statement is to make data center infrastructure invisible, elevate IT to focus on applications and services. And the premise of a lot of what we do is around simplicity and how we can make the data center a simple, efficient experience for all our end customers. We're a very global company, so we have over 1,400 customers in over 70 countries, right? And that's something that's been really unique to Nutanix. Something I've really enjoyed is we decided to go international very early on, so we have a big presence internationally as well. And how our customers usually purchase from us is usually our product is purchased for virtualized workloads. So we'll find that customers generally tend to select us for one workload and over time expand and grow with different kinds of workloads, everything from VDI to big data to different Microsoft apps, which we'll go into. So the inherent problem that Nutanix set out to solve for as a company was, what are the challenges that the current status quo of infrastructure creates, right? So if you look at legacy infrastructure, you look at what people have been doing for years with 3-tier architecture. After virtualization came along, that was a major innovation from the compute side. But if you look at what's going on from the storage side, what has been done to really make storage and compute keep up with the kinds of high utilization rates that people are seeing with virtualization. So we set out to really innovate in all different pieces of the buying cycle. If you look at buying, right, customers buying storage controllers in small, medium, large, extra sizes, depending on what workloads they expect to run on. Customers having to buy upfront and needing to predict what they'll need over time, leading to a high amount of prediction risk. In terms of deployment, you look at deploying a traditional solution, right, which involves putting together a solution from a lot of different vendors. They have to ensure that the different components work together. They've been pre-validated. Often procurement cycles are different for these different vendors that they're using. Management, this is probably where the greatest piece of the problem coming in, right? Managing a lot of different user interfaces. So having to actually learn different types of UIs, do a lot of manual operations in configuring and managing traditional solutions. Storage is managed in terms of LUNs and volumes, while servers are managed at the granularity of single VMs. How can all this management complexity actually be simplified so that there's one kind of common metric that is being used to manage? And finally, scaling and support. As you look at scaling, this is where we'll talk about Nutanix. We sell at one node at a time, right? So this is where we really set out to make sure that scaling over time can be very simple with the needs of your business. With buying, scaling is really complex with legacy, right? There's a lot of manual steps, and you're really doing large forklift purchases, having to actually forecast budget a lot ahead of time. And finally, support. Here, going through multiple vendors. So if you have an issue, really needing to go between different vendors for support, diagnosing issues, figuring out which vendor it's coming from, which product it's coming from, performance, for example, there's no end-to-end view of the entire system. So where is the root cause of the problem coming from? So in short, we thought that there's a lot of issues people are dealing with, and this is data center admins who have to deal with this day to day. How can we think of a better way to set up and run the infrastructure? And so our inspiration for our product and where it came from was really looking at invisible infrastructure. And one of the key proponents and the folks that have done this really well have been web-scale companies, right? Companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, who've been doing this for years when they realized that the traditional way that they were actually purchasing and using legacy data center solutions was not scaling with the needs of their business. So our design principles were inspired by a lot of these companies, and there's really two pieces to it that all these companies are doing. They have engineering, and then they have consumer design. Web companies like Google and Facebook really started pushing the limits of existing infrastructure systems and processes in ways that traditional businesses did not, right? They needed infrastructure that could support their business requirements, so quick application cycles, scaling on demand, cost containment, and they really realized that legacy infrastructure was a poor fit for their needs. So over time, what they developed was an alternate approach to IT, and this is what we call as web-scale IT. Some of the traits that make up web-scale IT include the infrastructure that's built from enterprise-grade server hardware pooled together using intelligent software. So it's not really about buying proprietary or high-end hardware. It's about using intelligent software to let you start small and scale over time and build great resiliency, right? The software in the system is distributed across all nodes. So you don't have central metadata servers or name nodes. You don't see controller bottlenecks. Parallel operations. So everything in the system, including storage functions like dedupe, metadata management, and system cleanup, is all distributed across nodes. There's no hotspots or bottlenecks, so allowing for massive scale as well as linear performance as you're adding more servers and storage on. Fourth, compute and storage sitting very close together. So data does not have to go back and forth between storage and compute over a network, right? Data has gravity. Co-locating storage and compute eliminates a lot of the network bottlenecks and system slowdown. And then finally, heavy automation, right? So this eliminates the need for expensive, error-prone manual operations. We have a lot of REST APIs, a lot of different automation frameworks so admins can really build a system and integrate with existing systems as they need to. So this was the inspiration that what led to the design of Nutanix, right? The core of what we do was based out of these principles, and if you look at a lot of our founders, they're actually, one of our main technical founders was the person who built the Google file system. So he was one of the key architects that actually helped Google develop this system. And this has been the DNA of the Nutanix company. A lot of our engineers are actually coming from Web 2.0 companies, companies like Facebook, companies like Twitter, where they've had to actually run a lot of these operations for consumers. And that's been a key piece of what we do here, and Payam is going to show you our UI, but it doesn't really look like your typical enterprise UI. It looks a lot more like a consumer UI that any kind of business user could use. So the core of what Nutanix does is what we call hyperconvergence, right? So what we're doing is we're optimizing the whole cycle, and we're collapsing essentially servers and storage into what we call the Nutanix nodes. And what you have here on the right is what you'll see the Nutanix, this is called a Nutanix block. Within this block, you can have anywhere from 1 to 4 servers with direct attached SSD and HDD. So a lot more compact and a lot more scalable than typically the large size. So our goal was to really make this dense. And the way that we sell is we sell different nodes and different ratios of compute and storage, right? So we have everything from really, really storage-heavy servers and storage to very compute intensive. So based on the kind of workload you have, we have these in different series. We call them, we have 1,000 series to 9,000 series. And essentially you can mix and match these different nodes all in the same blocks, all in the same clusters, and actually manage them through one UI. So that's the flexibility of the system, that as your workloads differ, you can actually use one platform for all different kinds of workloads because we allow you to manage from one pane of glass. So let's talk a little bit about our architecture and what makes this unique, right? So what I showed you on the outset was the typical Nutanix block. So here you'll see what a cluster looks like. And here you'll see that we have node 1, node 2, node n. So a Nutanix cluster is made up of a minimum of 3 nodes, which are nothing but standard x86 servers with direct attached SSD and HDD. So on top of this node, what you see are hypervisors. So you can actually choose the hypervisor that you would like to run with. We support ESXi, we support Hyper-V, or we have Nutanix's own hypervisor called Acropolis Hypervisor, which Payam is going to go into in just a second. And all of the Nutanix IP is actually in the CVM called the controller VM. This is the turquoise box that you see right here. So this is a software-based storage controller, right? And what's unique about our architecture is that it's really distributed in nature. So in a traditional architecture, you would have storage controllers in the form of hardware, perhaps 2 storage controllers for the whole system. In this case, every single time that you're adding on a node, you're adding on a controller VM, and you're adding on SSD and HDD. So the system is continually scaling with compute, with storage, as well as the CVM. The entire Nutanix product is called the XCP, or the Extreme Computing Platform, and it consists of a couple pieces. It consists of Prism, which is our single pane management, which we'll be doing the demo of. It consists of the Distributed Storage Fabric, which is what you see at the bottom here. And what this consists of is all our storage functionality, so intelligent tiering, VM-centric management, snapshots, cloning, dedupe, all our disaster recovery functionality and data protection. That's what we call the distributed storage fabric. And then we also have something called the App Mobility Fabric. So the App Mobility Fabric is an open environment. It's consistent of delivering intelligent VM placement, migration, and conversion across different hypervisors and different systems, let's say public cloud. Think of it as a dial, so you can essentially move VMs from ESXi to Hyper-V or Acropolis Hypervisor at the click of a button. So given that our platform is quite versatile, all it requires is any kind of VM can be running on the Nutanix platform. We have a whole set of workloads that we support and a lot of pre-validated solutions, right? For example, last week we just announced support for Zen Desktop on Acropolis Hypervisor. And additionally, we have VDI has been a big piece for us, as well as different kinds of enterprise applications. So we have SAP, Oracle, SQL Server running on us. We have a lot of big data applications. So Splunk is a very big use case for us. We have different Microsoft applications, so Exchange, SharePoint, SQL, to name a few. So really our platform is extremely versatile. We have different kinds of platforms, like I mentioned, the 1000 series. So you can do remote offices if you choose to, if you have a lot of different locations. One of our biggest customers, they are using Nutanix globally, and they have a central office in Sacramento. They're a retailer in Sacramento, and they essentially are able to manage the complete global cluster through their Sacramento office, and actually not have the need for highly trained IT specialists, and they don't need to fly people over as much because now they can actually manage it all from their location and headquarters. So basically, because we have Prism, because we have management from a single UI for our global product, it's very simple for you to manage from one location. This week, we've actually published 2 studies that I want to tell you about. One is our study that we just finished with IDC. So IDC is, it's a big analyst firm, and they basically interviewed 13 of our customers to look at the kinds of business value proposition that they're actually getting with Nutanix. And what they found is the customers are seeing fantastic ROI and fantastic payback and TCO savings over 3 to 5 years, right? So here's some of the numbers you can see: ROI of 510%, 5-year TCO savings of 58%. And where these savings are really being driven from are our OpEx savings, right? So as you look at the management and the downtime that Nutanix is solving for, there's some massive savings there. Deployment, we find, is one of the key components, right? So in this case, deployment of storage is 85% faster, management time is 70% less, downtime 98% fewer here. If you look at the type of downtime some of our customers previously used to have with Nutanix and what they're having now, they're finding a lot of hard dollars saved simply from the benefits of not having that downtime and not losing that user productivity. And this was one of my favorite quotes from the study, which is what we're finding is our customers have this massive cultural change when they're using Nutanix. It's gone from using IT as a way just to keep the dials on to really adding business impact. So we actually had some customers that have gotten new end customers because of Nutanix, because their services are so fast, right? So we have customers in all different kinds of verticals. We have government customers, we have retailers, we have financial customers. We have a lot of customers running their own custom workloads as well as Nutanix. But some of my favorite stories have been from customers who are actually running their workloads that they're selling on Nutanix, and as a result, they're finding that they can have much higher customer success as well as get new customers because of just the sheer uptime that they're having. And the second I wanted to point out, this got released last week as well, which is the latest Gartner Magic Quadrant. So integrated systems is a newer category that Gartner has started to talk about, and this year we were very excited to be placed in the Leaders Quadrant. Last year we were in the Visionary Quadrant, and we were one of the most visionary, but this year, because of our latest announcements really around Acropolis and kind of our vision going forward, that Nutanix App Mobility Framework will become the management pane for enterprises over time as they think about both data center infrastructure and public cloud as a management plane. These are some of the reasons that Nutanix has really kind of moved up, and something we're celebrating a lot internally, right? And in terms of what really distinguishes Nutanix, one is definitely the product piece, but a big part of our product is the ecosystem that we built around it, right? So, excuse me. In terms of services and global services, a big arm of Nutanix is the global services arm. And what's fantastic about that is, one, we have a fantastic education system, right? So you can basically, as a partner or as even a customer, get trained on the Nutanix platform and do different levels of training. So everything from beginner training, which is our NPP, to much more advanced training to actually become an expert on the Nutanix platform, to become an expert on the Acropolis hypervisor, and then develop custom solutions for Nutanix. In addition, we also have consulting and customer advocacy. So with these programs, if you choose to do so, you can get custom roadmap for you. You can also decide if you want a TAM, right? So if you want an account manager who can actually kind of shape your future of your data center and help you think through key decisions that have to be made with the Nutanix solution and what would be best for your environment. So in addition to the products, the global services, and our support offerings, these are kind of the three pillars as a company we're really investing in right now, and what we're hoping continues to help us over time shape our leadership with the Gartner Magic Quadrant as well as with our customers. And one product I want to tell you about, for any of you that are actually looking to just try Nutanix yourself, right? In May, we announced something called Community Edition. So Community Edition is a software version of the Nutanix offering that you can actually run on the hardware of your choice. So we have some minimum requirements, but you can run this within your own labs. You can sign up at nutanix.com/CE, and you can actually try out all our key functionalities. It's simply a software image. You get it downloaded. It takes about 15 minutes to get it installed, and through that you can test out all the Nutanix functionalities on up to 4 nodes. And all the support and any questions that you have, this is not a product that's it's not a commercial product. You can't purchase this product, and you can't buy support licenses for it, but you can definitely just try all the functionalities that Nutanix has, as well as the Acropolis hypervisor and the Acropolis software offerings, right? So definitely try this product out if you would like to just get a test run for what hyperconvergence is about and what Nutanix has to offer. And this is the complete same product experience that you would get with our paid product, which Payam will just demo in a minute. So try out Community Edition if you want to get a sense for Acropolis hypervisor, as well as get a sense for how a hyperconvergence can really shape some of the workloads that you're looking at in your data center. All right, with that, Payam, I'm going to pass it to you for the demo.
Thanks, Nikita. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Again, this is Payam Farazi. I see a couple of questions in the chat window, so please keep those coming. We'll go ahead and go into the live demo now and answer those questions at the end of today's webinar. So as Nikita mentioned, right, so we've got some of our largest customers manage multiple data centers either globally or geographically. So what I wanted to show you guys real quick was our Prism Central. So we've got 2 versions of Prism as it stands today. So one is the management of a single Nutanix cluster. And a Nutanix cluster at its bare minimum can be 3 nodes, and when I say nodes, you can equate that to a virtualization host. So 3 ESXi hosts, 3 Hyper-V hosts, or 3 Acropolis hypervisor hosts, which, as Nikita mentioned, is Nutanix's hypervisor built on KVM. So as you can see here, Prism Central allows customers to, again, manage multiple Nutanix clusters across potentially, worldwide. So as you can see here in this instance of Prism Central, I'm managing 5 different clusters. These clusters are running different versions of Nutanix code. You can see the number of virtual machines I'm managing in this environment, the number of hosts I'm managing in this environment. As you can see, I'm managing, again, clusters that consist of different hypervisor platforms. So I've got a few running ESXi, a few running KVM, and a few running Hyper-V. Hyperconvergence is kind of the buzzword of the last year or so. And one of the major differentiators between Nutanix and the other hyperconverged players is the fact that we're hypervisor agnostic. So what we're all about at Nutanix is bringing customers simplicity of management and bringing customers flexibility and choice. Regardless of what hypervisor you want to run, regardless of how you want to scale or what size you are, we've got a solution that we can right-size for your needs. So Prism Central gives you the ability to pretty much monitor, and of course I've got a bunch of alerts here. This is one of our demo clusters, so Nutanix engineers worldwide are beating this thing up. So please excuse all the critical alerts and such, but it's important to note that this is how, right, we can manage and monitor these clusters worldwide. And that's probably what's most important to customers as they stand up their infrastructure is what's the health of this infrastructure, right? And so if I do see that maybe I've got some critical issues in my cluster labeled Metro A, I can simply select it, and Prism will automatically take me to that Prism element instance, where I can then see that, hey, I'm running ESXi in this cluster, how many hosts I have in this cluster, and as you can see here, at Nutanix we support ESX 5.1, 5.5, 5.5U2, as well as 6.0, and you can mix and match hosts running different versions of ESXi code within the same cluster. So again, tremendous flexibility with respect to how you want to deploy your environment, how you want to maybe deploy some test and dev VMs, and then easily migrate those virtual machines from host to host, all through the Nutanix platform here. So the ability to mix and match hypervisor versions, the ability to mix and match platform versions, right? As Nikita mentioned throughout her presentation as well, right? We've gone towards a config to order model. So we understand that customers obviously have a wide range of applications that they want to deploy in their environment, from anywhere from file and print servers up to enterprise-grade Exchange environments, Oracle RAC environments, SQL databases, what have you. And those applications are going to have different profiles. So we give our customers the ability to configure the nodes in their environment from a memory perspective, from a processor perspective, SSD, and hard disk perspective. We've got different product families to meet those needs. And of course, you can mix and match those product families. As you can see here, I've got an NX3050 block in this cluster and an NX7100 block in this cluster as well. So again, once you stand up your infrastructure from a compute and storage standpoint and a hypervisor standpoint, what's probably most important to most customers is how much runway do they have, right? How much memory is being utilized in this cluster? Maybe I thought I needed 4 servers with 128 gig mem each, and after standing it up in our cluster, what I want is the ability to analyze my environment to see, hey, did I over-provision? Or hey, did I under-provision? And can I easily scale out with Nutanix? Absolutely. Could I have done this with my legacy 3-tier architecture platform? Maybe, maybe not. But what we want to do is give the customers, again, the visibility into their environment to make sure that what they purchase, they're utilizing, and if not, they can stand up different applications. Maybe they want to deploy a VDI project or a Splunk deployment. And when they previously thought they may have not had runway, they can now gain that visibility with the Nutanix platform, all being delivered through Prism here. So if I jump back to my Prism Central instance, again, that was a cluster running ESXi. If I now jump to one of my other clusters that I've got running in my demo lab, I can see that I'm running our Acropolis hypervisor. As you can see here, right, Prism Central, my Prism element instance of ESXi, and my Acropolis hypervisor instance of Prism, right, they all have the same look and feel. And from a ease of management standpoint, and from an OpEx standpoint, this is, again, what we aim to do to deliver to our customers, and one of the fundamental assumptions and design needs for companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon is ease of management. Right? We don't want our customers to worry about how am I going to train my staff to learn a new platform or to learn a new hypervisor, right? We make it very easy to use, HTML5 based, so no Java loading here. I've accessed it through Chrome. Obviously, IE is supported as well as Firefox and some other browsers. Very easy to access and very intuitive to learn. So as you can see here in my Acropolis hypervisor instance here, I don't have too many virtual machines running because this is a demo cluster being used last week as our SKO. So as you can see here, I've got 4 hosts in one block. Now again, we have a minimum of 3 node requirement because we are built to fail. So what our customers tell us, and what most enterprise class customers running their business on an IT infrastructure tell us, is that, hey, whether a disk fails or whether a host fails, right, we can't withstand any downtime. Right? IT is the lifeblood of most businesses today. So we have to withstand failures. So minimum of 3 nodes to start a Nutanix cluster, such that we can withstand at least 1 node, 1 disk, or processor failing, and not experience any downtime. So a minimum of 3 nodes to start a cluster. As you can see here, there's 4 nodes in this cluster. Our upper bound limit with respect to scale is actually a function of the hypervisor. So with VMware 5.5, the max limit was 32 hosts in a cluster. Microsoft 2012 R2 is 64 hosts in a cluster. So with VMware 6.0, they wanted feature parity with Hyper-V, so they now have a max limit of 64 nodes. And KVM, by the way, has no maximum upper bound limit. So Nutanix from the ground up has been designed with extremely scalable open source databases like NoSQL, Apache Cassandra, Zookeeper, etc., such that regardless of your organization's size, whether it be a 3-node environment or a 100-node environment, we'll be able to scale with you seamlessly and easily, with Prism being your main point of management as your company and your application's needs grow. So once you set up a Nutanix cluster here, the first things you're going to do is jump over to the storage tab. And again, I've already created, this cluster has been up and running, but just to kind of give you all that haven't seen Nutanix cluster previously, a little overview. And as Nikita mentioned a few times, right, each node has its own dedicated SSD and hard disk drive resources. When you create or stand up your Nutanix cluster, which takes about an hour, it's a fully automated process called Foundation, where we image the cluster with your hypervisor of choice, ESX, Hyper-V, or KVM, and then present storage to the hypervisor, and then you're on your way provisioning VMs. So the storage pool is simply an aggregate of all SSD and hard disk drive resources in your cluster, and you'll have a single storage pool with one cluster to keep things simple and easy to manage. You can then carve up the storage pool into containers. So now if I just name this August, I can just assign this to the default storage pool. And then in the Advanced Settings tab, I can see that gone are the constructs of RAID groups. Right, so at Nutanix, we do what we call a network RAID, or replication factor, of 2 or 3. So again, being built to fail, we have, with a replication factor of 2 copies of metadata, 3 copies of metadata throughout the cluster. And again, that 3 copies of metadata is why we have a minimum of 3 nodes to start. Some of our more application uptime-aware customers in the financial space, for instance, have requested that we implement a replication factor of 3. So replication factor of 3 is 3 copies of data and 5 copies of metadata throughout the cluster, so you have some added built-in resiliency to withstand any failures and not experience any downtime. Now, what's important to note is, being a software-defined data center, right, is that we can simply implement these features through a software release of the code. Now, as you might imagine, having 2 copies of data with an RF2 or 3 copies of data with RF3, we're going to get a decent hit with respect to usable capacity and marketed capacity, right? So what we want to do is, again, give our customers back the value of the assets that they're purchasing for their infrastructure. And what we've done is implemented, again, through a software release, is erasure coding. So erasure coding is, again, a technique that's leveraged by most web-scale companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon to give back those precious gigabyte resources on the data center floor back to the application, right? So erasure coding is essentially taking bits of parity data and the RF2 data in the cluster, making a erasure coded strip, very similar to concepts of a RAID 5 or RAID 6, turning essentially one node into a parity node, and then returning, again, very precious gigabyte resources back to the infrastructure. In addition to erasure coding and replication factor, we also have performance tier deduplication. So again, fully utilizing the most precious resources in the architecture, so the memory and SSD resources, we're going to implement deduplication at that level. We also have inline compression and post-process compression. Again, depending on what the application's needs are, we can right-size and implement the correct data reduction techniques for the application's needs. So if I just go ahead and create, telling me my August container already exists, I'm just going to append a 1 to it. So with that, I've created a container called August 1. Now, as I mentioned several times through the provisioning of that container, as you can see, it was very easy to provision. Not much to see there was the advent or the implementation of new features as delivered through software. So you might be wondering, how do I upgrade a Nutanix cluster to the latest and greatest version of code? So I can, we'll cover the upgraded cluster next. So if I just select Upgrade Software, I can see that I have 4 tabs here. And a couple of releases of Nutanix ago, I think previous to or part of the 4.0 release, the only tab that was available here was Upgrade the Nutanix operating system software. So you can see here, I'm actually running our version of code 4.5, which actually will go GA later this year. This is actually a little bit of a tech preview for you all. And if I'm obviously running our latest version of code, but if I was running 4.1 and I had the ability to upgrade to 4.1.1.4, I'd very simply be able to select Upgrade, and what Nutanix will do is perform a rolling upgrade of all of the controller virtual machines in the cluster, again, without introducing any downtime or need for planning of the upgrade for the IT administrator or the business that the infrastructure is running. A lot of our customers that we talk to will run upgrades of their clusters at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday, whereas they previously had to plan downtime, come in late Friday evening or late Saturday evening to perform an upgrade of the cluster, and during that time, any global employees wouldn't be able to access the infrastructure. So again, with Nutanix, we're all about ease of deployment, ease of management, and ease of upgrades and delivering the new features and functionality through these software releases. So our customers basically told us, hey Nutanix, the upgrade of the Nutanix operating system is so easy and so seamless. Wouldn't it be great if we can upgrade our hypervisor, our cluster's firmware, in addition to the Nutanix cluster check, all from this what we call one-click upgrade family as well. So as most of our customers and partners have found out, Nutanix has a very difficult time saying no to anybody. If we've got a customer asking for a feature request, we'll work very aggressively with a very, very top-notch engineering and development team, as Nikita mentioned, folks that are coming from Facebook, Twitter, and such, that this is, what they eat, drink, and sleep. So as part of our 4.1 release, we introduced the upgrade of hypervisor as part of the one-click family as well as firmware. And as again, you can see here, I'm running the latest version, and this is our Acropolis hypervisor, which is managed, pretty much by Nutanix. But if this is ESXi, I can simply upload the metadata file and the binaries here, and again, perform a fully automated rolling upgrade of the platform for the hypervisor as well. Now again, our customers said, hey, the hypervisor upgrade is great. Wouldn't it be great if I can update the firmware as part of this platform as well? And as you can see, and again, this is going to be a rolling upgrade of the disk firmware throughout the cluster. It's only disks today, but very soon will be, as part of this drop-down box, we'll have the BIOS and BMC available as well. So that's part of the one-click upgrade, and again, I'm running 4.1.4. So as we're demoing for you today, this is the Acropolis hypervisor. So if I was a Nutanix cluster customer running Nutanix 3.5 or 4.0, I wouldn't be able to do things like provision VMs through Nutanix via the Prism GUI. And this is unique to the Acropolis hypervisor. So again, we support ESXi, Hyper-V, and KVM from a hypervisor platform perspective, but these really cool and powerful radio buttons here in the upper right-hand corner that I have here are only available today for the Acropolis hypervisor. Because what we did is we asked our customers that run KVM, we said, hey, what would you want to see out of Nutanix from a development standpoint to implement into our solution? And basically they told us, wouldn't it be great? We've got teams of staff that understand KVM and they can do scripting and automation tasks, but it's very time consuming. And what if we wanted to repurpose those engineering and development teams that are going towards managing the infrastructure towards the application stack? Right, so we took that feedback and we said, well, let's introduce these VM management consoles into the Acropolis hypervisor, where we can do things like create a virtual machine. So I can name this my test VM. I can assign it some element of virtual CPUs, some number of cores, whoops, couple of gigs of memory, not 2,000, not 2 terabytes. And then I can assign it, as you can see here, some disk. So I can clone this from a Nutanix distributed file system file, or I can clone this from our image service. I can see that I have a Windows 2012 image here. I can add that disk to the cluster. Now I can give this virtual machine some additional disks to write to. I'm going to allocate this on the container that I created earlier called August 1, assign it some number of gig resources. And then basically our customer said, hey, we want to provision a virtual machine, assign it virtual CPUs, memory, disk, and then give it a NIC so it can communicate to the network. So we have the ability to create both layer 2 and layer 3 networks within the Acropolis hypervisor here. I've got a VLAN 99 I've created here, so I'm just going to add it to here. Click Save, and I can just now jump to my table here and see that, hey, my test VM has been provisioned. And again, this is a cluster running KVM, so on Nutanix Acropolis. So you might be asking, what a lot of customers ask is, what does this cost? Because while we do support VMware, Hyper-V, and KVM, a lot of our customers are conscious of today are the dollars that they spend on the data center. Maybe some of the other hypervisor solutions that they've had deployed on the data center floor might be getting costly from a standpoint. And it's important to note that Acropolis hypervisor on Nutanix and how easy it is to deploy and manage, as you can see here, is all part of our middle tier software bundle. So you can see here again, this is taking up no system resources in my cluster yet. If I do select power on, what it's going to do is under the covers, the Nutanix distributed file system is automatically going to do a level of algorithm selection to say, hey, which host in the cluster has the most available resources from a cores and memory standpoint to support this virtual machine that I provisioned. So you can see here, it has now spun this VM up on my host, Nutanix block 1, location B, and it will now be spinning up within this cluster. Now if I jump to, while that's loading, let's go ahead and select one of these other virtual machines that I had provisioned already and that are up and running. As you can see here from the console tab perspective, I can very easily view this console. I can launch this into a separate console, and it's secured end-to-end through a VNC proxy, and then, of course, do VM management tasks. Now, in addition to this, right, so again, we ask our customers, hey, what do you want to see from a VM management and operations standpoint? And pretty much this is what they told us. And 4.5 is our second software release of in support of the Acropolis hypervisor. So some of these were part of the 4.1 release. Some of them are new. So some actions that, again, a lot of customers and virtualization admins will go towards are things like power off, power cycle, get shut down, reboot, etc. Maybe I want to migrate this virtual machine to another host on the cluster. Maybe I want to do some sort of, maybe I want to repurpose block A to another cluster in, a different geographic location. So I can very easily migrate these virtual machines to another host in the cluster. And as you can see here, my virtual machine didn't experience any downtime here. So I can do things like pause this virtual machine, clone, and of course update and assign additional VM, CPU memory, and capacity resources. So that's real quick what it looks like to provision a virtual machine. Now, in addition to being able to provision a virtual machine, as I mentioned before, we have the ability to create both layer 2 and layer 3 networks. So if I wanted to give this kind of my VM network name, assign it VLAN 21. Now this would just be, essentially an open vSwitch. So it would create a network that would be added to all hosts throughout the cluster. So again, in this cluster I have 4 hosts. If I created this VLAN 22, it would be available to all hosts in the cluster, very similar to a virtual distributed switch in ESXi land. Now we also have the ability to enable IPAM as well. So this is more of the layer 3 network management and provisioning. So I can assign a network IP address with a prefix length, my gateway IP address. This is all pretty straightforward here. Domain name, and then give this a VM management VLAN 21 a set of IP addresses such that I can assign it a start address and an end address, so that these are going to be statically assigned as I provision virtual machines in the cluster. And I can essentially override any external DHCP server. Now again, we're all about ease of management. So this is, again, just another arrow in the quiver of our customers to be able to say, hey, if I want the DHCP functionality to be managed by Nutanix in this distributed database, and I don't have to worry about standing up a DHCP externally, or how am I going to back that DHCP server up, I can simply have Nutanix perform the DHCP tasks, and just like most things within the Nutanix platform, it will automatically be distributed and built to fail. So that's a quick look at network configuration. And what I wanted to show you guys as well is we showed you the one-click upgrade from a software perspective and from an expanded cluster perspective. And I don't have any available hosts in this demo lab out in San Jose. I'm sitting here managing this environment out of Chicagoland. And again, I have four nodes in this cluster, but this is how easy it is to expand a Nutanix cluster. Is once you introduce a new node or a new 20 nodes or a new 30 nodes into the cluster, and again, as Nikita mentioned, this is what a lot of our customers, how they grow, right, is land and expand execution, because there's not a lot of customers out there that are going to bet their business day one on a net new architecture to them. But what a lot of our existing customers do is will try us out in an application that is experiencing performance issues like SQL, Oracle, or maybe they hadn't virtualized it previously, but they want the high availability and the density story of hyperconvergence that can bring to their enterprise applications, migrate one workload, maybe a remote office branch office deployment, maybe test and dev sandbox on Nutanix, start with a 3-node cluster, and then land and expand their footprint to 32-node clusters, 64-node clusters, etc. And this is how easy it would be to expand that cluster. These new nodes introduced to the rack would be broadcast information over IPv6. I'd simply select the controller virtual machines here, and it would automatically add the compute and stored resources to the cluster. So very quickly, from a lot of customers like to see that haven't been a part of a Nutanix demonstration before is this hardware tab. So as we've kind of mentioned throughout, and for those of you that haven't seen a demo or a physical box previously, this is what it looks like. And this is our 3000 series family. So as we've mentioned a couple of times, from a form factor standpoint, a block can consist of anywhere from 1 node to 4 nodes. So this is our most dense form factor. I've got my 1, 2, 3, 4 hosts here in a shared nothing piece of sheet metal, and the only thing shared within this block are these dual redundant power supplies. Each of these disks will actually be assigned to a node. So these are assigned to node A, B, C, and D, but they're logically aggregated together into a single global namespace, which is our storage pool. And Nutanix, integrated lifecycle management will seamlessly handle in real time the promotion and demotion of hot blocks of data and cold blocks of data from our hard disk tier, which is obviously the coldest tier in our environment, up to the SSD tier, and then the hottest of the hottest blocks of data will reside in the controller virtual machine's memory. And again, as you can see here, there's no SAN here. Right? This is it. This is essentially bringing directly attached storage performance back to the data center with the benefits of shared storage and being able to take advantage of virtualization techniques like HA, DRS, and vMotion. From a data protection standpoint, and again, we talk a lot about at Nutanix. A lot of customers are curious about the storage, enterprise class storage features and functionalities that we support. And it's a valid question, and chances are we support it. We support it very well with a different technique in the data center. Again, this is kind of data center 3.0. This is the web scale data center. So what we do and leverage in our platform is MapReduce. So for replication tasks, for deduplication, for erasure coding, for drive rebuilds, we're harnessing the power of all of the controller virtual machines in the cluster such that as the cluster grows, the cluster actually gets better and better with respect to performing those tasks. So as Nikita mentioned, right, in the traditional three-tiered architecture, chances are you're running a dual controller from a storage perspective. And the best day that's going to perform is on day one. And as you begin to scale up in a legacy three-tiered architecture, the same storage controllers are going to have to do the deduplication, drive rebuild tasks, and replication tasks. And that's going to be very taxing on the system. So with Nutanix, again, we've got that controller virtual machine on the cluster, on each node in the cluster, going towards the processing of all those tasks. So just real quick from a protection domain standpoint, this is how we introduce, so as you can see here, we support both replication to a physical Nutanix cluster, and we support async and synchronous replication. We also support replication and backup to the cloud today. So as you can see here, from a cloud type, we support AWS and Azure. And today, these are backups only. So our CEO, Dheeraj Pandey, will talk a lot about kind of the phases of Nutanix. Phase one being, as Nikita mentioned, right, we incorporated in 2009. We've been shipping product for about 4 years. Phase one was all about hyperconvergence and collapsing the stack from the legacy three-tier architecture into easy-to-deploy nodes to consist of scalable blocks. That was phase one, is hyperconvergence. Phase two is this Acropolis hypervisor and the ability to provision virtual machines in KVM through Prism, as you can see, very easily. As part of a future release, we'll be able to convert virtual machines from ESXi to Hyper-V or ESXi to KVM very seamlessly with different hypervisors supported within a single Nutanix cluster. And then phase three will be load balancing and being able to monitor and manage your cloud provider workloads as well. So this is just a brief foray into that today. Is we support backup of snapshots to AWS and Azure. And again, the difference between Nutanix and legacy three-tier architectures is we're doing these functionalities that our customers expect, and we're doing it in a different fashion. So we're actually VM caliber from a replication and backup standpoint. So again, gone are the constructs of LUNs or volumes, and now all we have is containers where we introduce the data reduction techniques like RF2, RF3, deduplication, compression. You can have one large container in one Nutanix cluster and then provision anywhere from however many VMs your infrastructure requires, and then implement snapshots and replication policies at the VM level. So you don't have to plan ahead with respect to where are my gold virtual machines going to sit from a LUN perspective or a volume perspective? Where are my silver ones going to sit? Where are the ones I don't care about going to sit? When you stand up your architecture, with Nutanix, you can stand it up, have one big storage pool, have one big container, and then implement these data protection techniques as you're as your company identifies your RPO and RTO requirements. Now, in addition to Prism, obviously very slick and easy to use, if any of you out there are interested in implementing automation through REST APIs or managing your environments through the command line, we support all three of those as well. So I try and spend as little time in the command line as possible, and candidly I'm not very up to speed with REST API programming, but for those of you out there that are, just know that we have support for both. So with that, I see we've got 5 minutes left. Let's go ahead and jump back to the questions, see if we have any questions out there.
Yeah, so we had a few come in, and I just want to take a few minutes to remind everyone to check out academy.avnet.com for Nutanix training. We recently added some Nutanix classes to our public schedule, and we also offer private, so please check out the site for that. And all right, so we did get a couple of questions in. I'm going to read them, but you might also want to read it on the chat window. So how easy or difficult is it to migrate a VM between hypervisors? Both VMware and Hyper-VMS have migration tools that convert either P to V or V to V. Does Nutanix have a migration tool to go between all three supported hypervisors, or is VM conversion an external function?
Yep, so great question. So as part of our 4.5.1 release, which is slated for the October-November timeframe of this year, is actually demoed at our first user group conference, which was in Miami in June. And you can actually go to YouTube and do a quick search for next demo. It was performed by our VP of Engineering, Rajiv, and this conversion of VMware VMs to the Acropolis hypervisor will be native to the platform. And that's part of, again, kind of our phase 2, all about delivering customers that flexibility of choice in the app mobility fabric. From a P2P standpoint, or P2V standpoint, that would be not supported. I guess, of course, it's supported. And as Nikita mentioned, we've got a great global services organization that we can leverage to facilitate customers' needs with respect to migrating those types of workloads onto our platform, but would not be quite as seamless as what I described earlier.
Excellent. And a follow-up to that, with your pooled storage, you mentioned that HA, DRS, and vMotion are supported from your storage pool in your storage presentation. Presuming that your storage presentation is more NAS than block, is VMware fault tolerance supported? VMFT in version 6 is finally large enough to be extremely interesting. Is it supported in Nutanix?
Yeah, so great questions and good points. So with supporting of multiple hypervisors, we actually present storage in 3 different fashions to make it as seamless as possible. So for VMware, we present storage over NFS. For Hyper-V, we actually present over SMB 3.0. And for KVM, we actually present as a nice fuzzy target. So we support both HA, DRS, and vMotion in VMware. As part of the Acropolis hypervisor, today we support HA and DRS. vMotion actually isn't really required with Nutanix, since we've got that single global namespace, and actually we encourage our customers to have one container for the entire cluster. That really kind of eliminates the need for vMotion.
Excellent, thank you. Well, with that, I am going to actually wrap it up. We will be sending out a recording of the presentation to everybody who joined the call today, so you'll be able to reference back to this and share it amongst your peers. And I'd like to thank Nutanix for presenting, so thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Have a great day.